We haven't done a lot of baseball coverage here in a little bit. We did some softball stuff, but obviously no way to not get on here and talk about what was one of the more fun, stressful, frustrating, just exciting games that you could ever want. You knew today was going to be a battle. You knew it wasn't going to be easy like yesterday was. Everything yesterday was easy. I think there was a point of the game where you thought things might be a little bit easier once you took a lead and had Arnold on the mound, had Arnold, even though the pitch count was high, you felt like you had him rolling some. It never was like easy. And when he gives up the 2-run home run for you to go down, they're just down 5-4 at that point. Then you thought like, oh man, this is going to be a battle for the rest of the day. It felt like, and I'll go through more of the game, it's just kind of a raw emotional reaction. Maybe we'll do something on the World Series at some point this year or this week because we've got a little bit of time. The best thing about winning on Saturday is you kick your feet up and 14 other teams have to fight it out, battle it out. Tennessee lost to Evansville today. You don't have to do anything. You kick your feet up and you're clinched, right? Other teams have to figure it out for the rest of the weekend into Monday, probably even, and you don't have to worry about anything. So we'll do some College World Series talk, I'm sure, at some point during the week. But man, what a battle! And really, the most impressive thing to me is that several times the Noles fought back and didn't just quit, not that you'd ever think that they just give up, not that you'd ever think like, oh man, they'll just throw their hands up and quit now or anything like that. But man, it felt like when they scored and then they came right back with a quick inning, like it just felt like you might end up having to go to tomorrow, which I think Florida State was set up really, really well if today had to get to Sunday or if this series had to get to Sunday, because if you wouldn't have ended up tying it, taking a lead, I don't know that you would have gone to Whitaker. If you'd have just ended up losing, Max Williams, huge, ties it in the 9 spot for you. I don't know that you win the game without him. So many of those performances, and obviously we could spend 20 minutes talking about James Tibbs, which we may here in a minute. But it felt like if you couldn't get it tied back up in regulation, or if you couldn't take the lead, which they ended up getting a lead, it felt like you'd have to end up saving Whitaker for tomorrow, saving him for Sunday, because he was nails. He was, as much as James Tibbs was the reason you won today, without Whitaker's performance, obviously you've got no shot, right? The bullpen was taxed. We could talk about the decision in the 9th to go with Holtz as opposed to going with Whitaker. You can question that. I'm sure Link's second. I mean, you got to make a decision. You make a decision and you move from it. But man, you don't win this game without Whitaker coming in and absolutely shutting them down once he was in there. I know that short guy that hit the game tying home run almost hit another one. Warning track power. How about Cam Smith with warning track power twice today? But it felt like Whitaker was going to. I mean, if he had to go for 7 innings, he was going to go for 7 innings today, and he was going to be really, really good doing it. I thought. James Tibbs is obviously just a ridiculous human being, and to hit 3 home runs and do them in the biggest moments, right? The first one, you're down 2-0, and you're kind of wondering like, oh man, are we gonna, what are we gonna do? Like Arnold doesn't look sharp. Offense hasn't done anything yet. They've got a really good pitcher on. What are we gonna do? He ties you up, and then to get the one late, obviously that won it for you, and not only. He didn't find a double somewhere so you could be up 1 run to hit it out again. And a no-doubter, just phenomenal, right? Just so much of sport is, hey, you've got this one moment to do something insane. And as much as Tibbs got walked and as much as this postseason, they talked about him struggling last week. Obviously, he led the regional in walks, but couldn't find a hit anywhere. Really didn't have a lot of hits in Charlotte either. But, I mean, shout out the Sunday Golds guys. I mean, both Brett and Aria said, like, we think he's going to have a really good super. And he did. He won it for you, Like, your bats were all insane, on Friday. But what he did today is special. It's up there, and there's so much recency. There's so much hyperbole in moments like this. But it's up there as one of, like, those all-time FSU performances, right? It's up there with, like, Kelvin Benjamin in the swamp against a rival, right, where he scores 3 touchdowns. It's up there with Kaylee Mudge going 5 for 5 in a game at the Women's College World Series, which has never been done before. It's up there with P-Dub against Virginia Tech, scoring like 1 billion touchdowns and having 1 million yards. Like, it's up there with those kind of performances, right? And so to do it in a super regional, when your team had to have it, not that you couldn't have found a way to win tomorrow, but do guys tense up a little bit? Do you want to go to tomorrow, even after, especially after Whitaker's thrown, 3 or 4 innings at this point? I don't necessarily know that you wanted to see the game happen tomorrow. Now, could the offense explode again? I mean, they scored 24 runs and then 10 runs today. So they'd scored 34 runs over 2 days, but man, what if the bats cool off just a little bit? What if your bullpen just is worse than theirs, which the bullpen, honestly, Ox gave you a lot today. Holtz gave you a lot yesterday. I mean, you'd have tried to piece it together, but I mean, you had to probably start Armstrong at that point. The worst case scenario would have been that, best case scenario would have been, man, you give up the game tying home run. Well, best case scenario is a win, and you did, but best case scenario would have been you give up the game tying home run and then they just score right away after that. That way you don't burn through Whitaker. You at least have him for 4 or 5 innings tomorrow, maybe more. And, it could have been worst case scenario if you had blown through Whitaker. And then who do you start tomorrow? I guess it would have been Army. And then I think you would have had to go Charles Abraham. I think Ox is pretty well burned after a couple of days. So I don't know. I think you'd have been in a lot of trouble if this game got to tomorrow. Now that said, they used their Sunday starter on Friday, pitched him over 100, but like they would have been in some trouble too. And I think as much as we belabor the points about bullpens and things like that, I think you would have caught them kind of sleeping too. And it would have been another shootout, right? And you've won some shootouts, you've lost some shootouts. When you've gotten to day 3 in a series, it hasn't been great for you. You think about the Duke series, you think about seeing Duke again in the ACC championship. And so that would have worried me. UConn certainly doesn't have the pitching or the hitting that Duke does, but I mean, they hit you pretty well today, and they did a good job against you, even against your ace. Jamie Arnold went out and battled, was really, really good at limiting damage. First inning, you had an error, you had a ball hit very poorly out to the outfield, and you had both runners taken off at the same time. I mean, they score off of that. If not for that, and if not for the error, do they have both guys in motion like that? I mean, you might get out of that inning with 1 or no runs given up if the error had not occurred to get the leadoff guy on. Obviously, he wears some of it with the hard hit double down to left field. He hit the guy as well that ended up scoring. So you got to wear some of that if you're Arnold, but not super sharp today, but he did come in and once they got those 2 runs, he limited it. They had 2 guys on with no outs and he shut them down, and did a really good job of getting out of it. Didn't allow anything else until the home run that just seemed like it was a pop fly and just kept tracking, and ended up sneaking over the wall to be 5-4. I thought that, you got enough from Arnold. Certainly wasn't like last week's performance. But I mean, your offense picked you up. Arnold was nails last week. Dorsey was nails last week. Neither one of them were elite this week, and your offense picked you up, and your bullpen did just enough to get you through. Obviously, your offense picked you up in a mighty way on Friday. Hey, I'll wrap up with some closing thoughts, but I do want to give some quick love to the Mango board. I appreciate them for all of their support. They're out at all of the FSU athletic events that you'll be at. So if you see them here or there, make sure you say hi. Again, not getting you to enter a code, not trying to get you to buy something special online or use this discount link or anything like that. Just grab a couple of mangoes the next time you are at your local grocer, whether it be Publix, wherever you shop. Grab a couple of mangoes. Best fruit on planet Earth. You literally cannot be upset while you're enjoying a mango. So appreciate the Mango board for their support. Appreciate them for all that they do for not only our show, but FSU athletics, and wanted to give them some quick love. James Tibbs, again, one of those performances. I think he's also just one of those players for FSU, right? Like, and the fact that he talked about this on the Sunday Golds podcast that he went on this week, which you should certainly be listening to that if you're not. Brett and Aria do a phenomenal job of breaking down all things FSU baseball. I think Tibbs, he talked about coming to Florida State so that he could be involved in in going to World Series and hosting regionals, hosting supers, and his career just honestly, he's been really good. He's going to be a first rounder, but it just hasn't worked out that way for him, unfortunately. I think that, the team obviously going through transition, coaching changes, it has not been a lot of fun. But he's talked this year about how this is, this team and this is the most fun he's ever been having in his life. And I'm so happy for him. I think he's going to go down. I don't know that he gets his number out there next to Poe. Like, I'm not saying any of that, but I do think he's going to go down as like one of those guys in FSU history. Not even just in baseball, but really in all sports. Like one of those special athletes who did things the right way. And whether they won a title, didn't win a title, doesn't matter. Like they were one of those guys, like the guys who laid the foundation for this program to be really, really good for a really long time. Now, all that said, if he goes out and wins, 5 more games, 6 more games, somewhere in there, based on if you win them all or lose or drop one. If he wins 5 or 6 more games, or the team does, but kind of behind him, and he's continuing to hit the ball well, then yeah, he might jump up into the very top echelon of that list, which is a loaded list of FSU legends that played baseball here. But man, what a ride. To take a lead to the bottom of the ninth, I could talk about this forever, but it's stupid that the home team would ever be the away team in a super regional. You earned that super regional. You earned the chance to be a top 8 seed. There's no chance that you should ever be, batting in the top of an inning. But, I guess when you look back at 2019 and Mendoza's walk-off, nobody's complaining that you walked off as LSU to go to the World Series. So I guess it hurts you some, it helps you some, but I think overall I'd prefer it to just be the home team's the home team. I think it's stupid that you would have that the other way. There's a reason, that home teams in the playoff get to be at home, in college football now and in the NFL and everywhere else. There's a reason for that, right? And so I think that's dumb, but you felt so good when you took that lead going to the ninth, and you had Whitaker, you had Holtz. You just need 3 outs, right? 3 outs from Omaha, and to give that up, it really felt like that might be enough of a gut punch to just, I don't know, not they wouldn't have thrown in the towel or anything like that, but nobody would have been surprised if they just tacked on another one there in the ninth, won the game, and walked it off. And then we have a game 3 tomorrow. For them to not let that happen, for them to battle and make sure that they were just set and solid and ready to go. And, Whitaker came out and was just absolute nails. Again, you don't win without him. You don't win without a lot of guys today, but it was so special to see. It was so special to see the fight. Obviously, we could talk about Link as much as you guys had time for, but what he's done, the turnaround. Somebody asked me, is he Mike Norvell for baseball? And I sing Mike Norvell's praises as much as is possible. Legitimately, the last 3 or 4 videos, if you're new to the channel, the last 3 or 4 videos that I've done have literally just been praising Mike Norvell. As much as I love Mike Norvell and will fight for him and talk about how great he is, and I think he is like the next guy, and I don't want this to offend anybody. I mean, somebody asked me very quickly after the game today, is Link Mike Norvell? And I said, man, he might be better. And I'm all in on Norvell. That's not like an anti-Norvell thing at all, but he might be. Like it is ridiculous, the turnaround. Florida State was one of the first teams eliminated last year from their conference tournament. They were so bad in the ACC, they didn't have a chance to get to Charlotte. If you're eliminated from your conference tournament, you're not going to Omaha. Or you're not going to the playoffs. They were one of the first teams eliminated last year, and they're the first team that clinches Omaha this year. Now, obviously, some of that's scheduling, but that's insane. That turnaround is ridiculous to think about. And so Link makes the College World Series really the same year that Norvell should have made the playoffs. Norvell did enough this year to make the playoffs, and I don't think it was on him that they didn't. So thank God there's not a committee. I tweeted this right before I started recording, but the College Football Playoff Committee would have said, due to Cam Leiter's injury, Florida State doesn't go to Omaha. We'll put UConn or maybe an SEC team in that gets smoked in their regional or super regional. So, all right, hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Wanted to just kind of give a quick raw reaction to the game. I appreciate you guys. Love you. Go Noles.